The evening began with the kind of quiet excitement that always comes with company events. My husband, Daniel, worked for a growing marketing firm in Chicago, and tonight was their annual company dinner, hosted in the private dining hall of a well-known downtown restaurant. I had been to a couple of these before, but this one felt different. Daniel had been working especially hard lately, spending long hours at the office, often coming home well after I had already eaten. He wanted me to come not only to enjoy myself, but also to meet his new boss, Richard Whitman, the man everyone said was brilliant, tough, and a little mysterious. I spent longer than usual getting ready, curling my hair and choosing a deep navy dress I knew Daniel liked. When we arrived, the restaurant was alive with the sound of clinking glasses, laughter, and the hum of conversation. Employees mingled with their spouses, and the whole place glowed under golden lights. Daniel introduced me to a few of his co-workers before guiding me toward the man I had heard so much about. Richard Whitman was taller than I expected, with neatly combed dark hair that had started to gray at the temples, giving him a look of both experience and authority. His handshake was firm, his smile polite but not overly warm. "So this is Emily," he said, glancing at Daniel before focusing on me. "I've heard about you. It's nice to finally meet." For much of the evening, Richard floated from table to table, speaking with everyone in turn. He didn't dominate conversations, but he had a way of listening that made people lean in, eager to impress him. I found myself studying him when he wasn't looking, trying to understand why Daniel respected him so much. The dinner went on with speeches, laughter, and stories about the past year's accomplishments. At one point, Daniel was pulled aside by a group of colleagues who wanted to discuss a new project idea. I didn't mind. I sipped my sparkling water and enjoyed watching the room. That's when Richard appeared again. "Emily, are you enjoying yourself?" he asked. "Yes, very much," I replied, smiling. "It's a lovely event." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Daniel is lucky. Not everyone has a partner willing to come along to these things and genuinely fit in. It means something." It was a kind thing to say, and I thanked him, though his tone carried a weight that made me wonder if there was more behind it. Before I could dwell on it, Daniel returned, cheerful and slightly flushed from the wine, and we moved back into the rhythm of the evening. By the time the dinner ended, it was late. The restaurant's entrance was crowded with guests saying their goodbyes, calling for rides, or walking toward the valet stand. Daniel's phone buzzed, and he frowned. "It's the team," he said, sighing. "They need me to come back for a quick meeting about tomorrow's presentation. It won't take long, but it means I can't drive you home right away." I didn't want to wait alone downtown at that hour, but before I could suggest anything, Richard, who was standing nearby, spoke up. "I'll give her a ride home," he offered easily. "I live not far from your neighborhood, actually. It's no trouble." Daniel looked relieved. "That would be great, sir." "Thank you. Emily, is that okay with you?" I hesitated, only for a moment, but Richard's tone was calm and professional, so I nodded. "That's fine." Outside his car, a sleek black sedan, waited by the curb. He opened the passenger door for me, and once I settled in, he walked around to the driver's side. The city lights reflected on the windshield as we pulled away from the restaurant. For a few minutes, we rode in silence, the sound of tires on pavement filling the space. Then Richard glanced at me. "You know, I didn't tell Daniel this, but I wanted the chance to talk with you." My curiosity stirred. "With me?" "Yes," he said, his voice steady. "Not about anything inappropriate, don't worry. I wanted to thank you for supporting him the way you do. Daniel is talented, one of the best people on my team, but I can see the kind of hours he puts in. That kind of commitment isn't possible without someone at home who understands, who believes in him. I wasn't expecting that. Most bosses barely notice the families behind their employees." His words carried a sincerity that caught me off guard. "Thank you," I said softly. "It hasn't always been easy, but I know how much his work matters to him." Richard nodded. "And it matters to me too. I built this company with people like Daniel in mind, people who care, who don't give up. But I also know the sacrifice it takes. Sometimes leaders forget the people standing behind their employees. I don't want to forget." The city rolled by outside the window, bright neon signs, quiet streets, the occasional couple walking hand in hand. I felt a surprising sense of calm in his presence, though I couldn't ignore the weight of his words. "You're not what I expected," I admitted. He raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what did you expect?" I laughed lightly. "I guess someone more intimidating. Daniel said you're demanding, a perfectionist." "That's true," he admitted with a small smile. But demanding doesn't mean ungrateful. I push hard because I want my team to succeed. But I know that success comes at a cost. For the rest of the ride, we talked more, not just about work, but about life. He asked about my own interests, my career before I shifted focus to family, and the little things I did to keep myself busy while Daniel worked long hours. He listened intently, as though my words mattered just as much as any business pitch. When we finally pulled up to my house, the porch light glowing softly in the night, he didn't unlock the doors immediately. Instead, he turned slightly toward me. "Emily," he said carefully, "I know it might sound unusual, but I wanted to tell you this directly. Daniel has a future here. A bright one, and I intend to support that. But more than that, I wanted you to know that I see you too. You're part of that future, whether you realize it or not." I stared at him, surprised by the depth in his voice. I had expected polite small talk, maybe even silence. Not this. "I don't know what to say," I admitted. "Just say you'll keep standing by him," Richard replied. "Because if you do, I'll do everything I can to make sure his sacrifices, and yours, lead to something greater." He finally unlocked the doors, and I stepped out, still absorbing his words. As I walked up the driveway, I glanced back. He gave a small nod, then drove away into the night. Later, when Daniel returned home, tired but optimistic about his meeting, I didn't tell him every detail of what Richard had said. I only told him that his boss had been kind and thoughtful. But deep inside, I held on to the conversation. It wasn't every day someone looked past the surface and acknowledged the hidden effort behind another person's success. In the weeks that followed, Daniel seemed more energized at work. Opportunities opened for him, projects he had only dreamed of being part of. And every time I thought back to that night, I remembered Richard's quiet words in the car. Words that reminded me that sometimes, the most surprising thing isn't a grand gesture or shocking revelation. Sometimes, it's simply being seen for the role you play in someone else's story. And that night, on the quiet ride home after the company dinner, that was exactly what Richard had given me.